Hi, how are you doing today? So, I'm doing something new, a little bit of live going on, a little bit of LinkedIn. You might be watching this on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you are watching this. Go ahead and ask your questions in the comments. I may not be able to see them right now. That is okay. I want to be able to, even after this training, be able to go in, answer your questions, give you any details about anything that you're hearing here today, and help you with time management. Because if you're a lawyer, I know that you want more time. I know that you want, oh, see, this is me testing this out. And it turns out that there's a little bit of lag time between me and the video. So go ahead, ask away any of your questions in the comments. What I'm going to do is after these trainings, I am going to go through, I am going to answer the questions that you have, and then we can start a conversation because I'm going to be doing these trainings every single day this week. You're going to get a different training each day. And I'm doing these trainings in part to give you some foundational awareness and tools to help you take control of your practice and your time, but also because I'm talking to you about my program, Timepiece for Lawyers. And if you are a lawyer who is tired of feeling overwhelmed and tired of feeling anxious and wants to have a life, then I highly encourage you to join. Later in the week, I'm going to talk to you about the program. But if you are interested in it, I have the link here, dinacataldo.com/timepiece. So, what I want to talk to you today about is beginning to live your life and manage your law practice with intention. And when I say managing your law practice with intention, it doesn't matter if you own your own firm, it doesn't matter if you're working for somebody else. You can begin to take charge of your practice and live it with intention. And let me tell you why I'm even here today talking to you about this is because after 15 plus years as a criminal prosecutor, and it took me some time to figure out how to take charge of my time, I figured it out. And what I also figured out is that I wasn't alone in this, that there were so many lawyers who didn't feel comfortable reaching out for help, who didn't feel comfortable saying that they needed help, felt like they had to do it on their own. And that was me. And I don't want you, if you are in that position, to not have the help that you need, to not get the tools that you need in order to make these changes. Because the truth is, law school didn't give us these tools, didn't teach us how to manage our mind. I'm going to be talking to you about that this week, what mind management is and how to apply it to your law practice. And most of us were brought into the legal profession through a firm that had lots of old school ideas, probably a lot of older white men who were really laying the foundation for the next part of our lives. And those people who were in positions of power in the law firms were all about milking as much work from us as possible, not caring for us as the human. And the only person who is ever going to care about us as a human in the profession is us. That's it. So we have to look out for ourselves. I remember watching my boss have a conversation with another attorney, and that attorney was managing some other attorney who was doing trials, and he was saying how she was working her behind off and how hard she was working and how she was there early and she was there late and she was constantly working. And my boss said, "Oh, that's so good. Like, get it out of her while she's young. We got to get all the work out of her while she's young." That conversation went right over my head because I was so new. And I also think I just took it for granted that that's what we were supposed to do as lawyers, that we were supposed to constantly work. And if you find yourself on this constant hamster wheel where you are constantly working and you're not living, that's a problem. And you may not see the problem in it right this second because maybe you're just so used to it, but it doesn't feel right to you. You may not be able to see what I ultimately saw was the health repercussions. I was diagnosed at 29 years old with breast cancer. 29 years old. I was in the middle of my first year as a trial attorney, and that's the time of our lives where we're trying to impress everybody and we're trying to show everybody we belong and that we know what we're doing and that we should be lawyers and that we deserve to be earning the money that we're making. And I took a break for chemotherapy, and that chemotherapy, oh my gosh, it was like a vacation compared to my trial load. And I knew at that point that there was something wrong. I didn't realize that I wasn't supposed to feel anxious all the time. I wasn't supposed to feel stressed out all the time. I wasn't supposed to be worrying about work at all hours of the day and night. And what I did learn was that when I had the tools I needed, when I was conscious about what I wanted, and that's what we're going to be talking about here today, about creating an intentional life when where you are managing your practice, not the other way around. When I got intentional about that, I started to turn my practice around because working 50 to 70 hours a week was killing me. What I didn't realize is I needed to rethink everything about what I ever knew about managing my time as a lawyer. And so I'm going to walk you through this throughout this week. We're going to talk about 5 separate things I want you to be aware of so that you can begin turning your life around, turning your practice around, living more intentionally, enjoying your life more, feeling more fulfilled. Because if you're working constantly, you don't have time to have the life that you want. You may find yourself overworking to the extent where you're cutting out relationships in your life. I had a time when I went on a date and I actually fell asleep on my date. Like, this is not something that we should be doing as humans, is falling asleep on dates. But that's what I did because I was so tired. I was working myself to the bone. Chances are, if you're here watching this, you have experienced this too. So let's talk about just where to start in terms of knowing how to live your life intentionally. The first thing is to start recognizing where you are not happy, recognizing where you are frustrated. And we don't want to just flip your whole life upside down, but we do want to notice some things. Let me give you some examples. So I noticed that I absolutely hated that I hit my snooze button. I don't know how many dozens of times every time in the morning because I was so tired. And because I would hit my snooze button like 12 different times, I would sleep in to the point where I only had a short amount of time to get ready for the office. And I was rushing around. Then I'd rush into my car and then I'd rush through traffic to get to the office. And I hated that feeling in my body. You know, that feeling where you're just tense in your shoulders. Maybe you have some shallow breathing going on. Maybe you're a little extra angry when somebody cuts you off. You're just a little short tempered throughout the day. That's how I was starting my day. And how we start our day makes a difference in how we lead the rest of the day. I can tell you that from personal experience. So that's one example of something I noticed that I just didn't like. And that was actually the first thing I tackled. I just want you to pick one thing right now, one area of your life where you know what, you hate the way you feel. You don't like waking up grumpy. You don't like feeling panicked or hurried. Pick one area of your day. Do you got it? Tell me in the comments because I'm going to go back. I'm going to go look through all these. Tell me in the comments, what is that one thing you really wish you could change? Put that in the comments. I'm going to tell you that one thing that I just hated. I thought for the longest time I couldn't change it, that I was a victim of my circumstance, that it had to be that way because I didn't have time, I didn't have energy. That's just the way it was. And then something clicked with me. I don't know if I heard it on a podcast or I heard it in a training like this one, and it clicked with me. And I was like, wait a minute. It doesn't have to be this way. I can do something about this. And so what I did is I said, okay, what don't I like about this? I don't like how I feel. I don't like how I am during the day because I noticed I was more short tempered than I'd like to be. And at heart, I was a very kind hearted person. But when you were working all the time, it puts you on edge. When you're worrying that you're going to miss something all the time, it puts you on edge. You aren't necessarily the most loving partner to your spouse. You're not necessarily the best daughter or son to your parents, right? Like there are fundamental things that we need to address if we want to have really good relationships, and it all starts with us. So we got to start one step at a time. So this one step that I had was is I want to put myself in a better state moving into my day. I want to enjoy my mornings. That's what I want. And so from that point, I could start moving with intention. I could say, okay, well, what do I want that to look like? So for you in your area of your life, whether it's your mornings, maybe it's your night routine, maybe it's not having lunch during the day and you want to incorporate lunch in the day. What is that one thing that you'll do? So for me, I took my morning and I said, okay, this is what I want my morning to look like. I want to have time for coffee. I want to have time to take a shower and get dressed. I want to feel really calm. And I needed to think about how do I take a couple steps behind that and make sure that happens? What do I need to be thinking about in order to create that ideal morning for myself? For me, it was making for me, I didn't know this at first. This was all trial and error. And I want you to think about this as a trial and error process for you too, because too often we get into perfectionism. And if we don't do it right the one time that we try it, then we think we can't do it and we don't want to keep feeling disappointed. It feels horrible and we feel ashamed of ourselves. But for this experiment that I did, again, treat this like an experiment. I said, how could I maybe change my mornings? And so I thought, well, what if I wake up at 6 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock? Well, at 6 o'clock the next morning, I found myself hitting snooze again. It wasn't working. And I said, oh, okay, well, it's not that. And I said, well, maybe it's something else. What else could it be? Well, maybe it's that this alarm that's in my room is just too tempting because it's also my phone. And I just want to flip through my phone and check my email and check social media. And that just takes my attention away. And by the time I'm ready to get up, my brain's already buzzing. I'm already tense and I've lost so much time. I'm not being able to create the morning I want, having that nice cup of coffee, like going into my day nice and calm. So then I said, all right, well, what can I do? I can put my alarm in my kitchen. So I put my alarm, my phone in the kitchen. So I couldn't touch it. And my alarm was far away. So I had to get up. The next day, I get up, I go into the kitchen when my alarm goes off. But what do? I go right back into my room under the covers because my covers are so comfy. It's just so warm. And of course, I have my phone. So I'm back into the same place, right? So I had a choice at that point. If I didn't manage my mind, I would have been in trouble. But I knew enough to say no. I can keep doing this. I just got to keep at it. So the next day, did the same thing, put my phone in the kitchen, got up when the alarm went off, but I said, we're going to do something different. I decided this the night before because deciding ahead of time is so important. I said, okay, look, I am not going back into the bed. I'm going to turn on the coffee and we're going to keep moving. I'm not going back to the bed. Even though I wanted to go back under those covers so badly, I didn't go back. And this is part of mind management. And I'm going to teach you more about this in the trainings this week. But when you begin to put these together, the intentionality, the mind management, being present, you begin to create a life that you actually enjoy, one that you actually love, one that you can't wait to get up in the morning for. And that's what I was creating without even knowing it. So I got that step and then I had another step and I noticed myself go back to my old habits and I said, no, 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 no. We got to keep looking at this as an experiment because remember, we're not going for perfection. We're experimenting here. So I went back and I said, all right, I need to go to bed earlier because clearly I'm not getting enough sleep because I want to stay in bed longer. So I said, well, what are my habits the night before? What am I looking at the night before? Oh, wait a minute. I'm scrolling social media before I go to bed. I'm watching TV till the last minute before I go to bed. My mind is buzzing because of that. So I said, all right, well, we're not going to have any electronics for an hour before I go to bed. I'm going to let myself read. I'm going to do something that's more relaxing before I go to bed. I'm going to go to sleep a little bit earlier. So, you see what I'm getting at here? This was a testing process for me. It wasn't just a one and done. And I think it's really easy to get into that perfectionist mode and think, oh, we can't do it because we didn't do it right the first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time. But all failure is, because that's what we're calling it, let's be honest, right? We're telling ourselves we're a failure, we can't do it. All failure is as part of the testing process. So when you start looking at living intentionally as an experiment versus as a destination, then it becomes this in the present moment exercise. It becomes a mind management exercise to help you create the life that you want. But too many of us, excuse me, too many of us give up too soon. We give up before the good stuff even is there. So we have to keep going through the hard part. And that can take some experimenting. That's why we don't want to judge ourselves. We don't want to give up too early, right? Because if I had given up after those first few attempts, I wouldn't be where I am now, right? I needed to keep going. Same thing with any habit that you have. If you have a workout habit and you go off it for a couple weeks and it becomes really hard to kind of get the gas going again to move forward on it, that's okay. You just get back into the groove. You start over again. That's what we want to do when we're living intentionally. We don't want to beat ourselves up for not doing any of those things. We don't want to do anything that is going to shame ourselves into non action, which is what so many of us do. So I want to just share that bit for you. And I'm looking at my notes here for a second. But if you have any comments, if you have any questions, if you want anything else from this, I may not be able to see the comments right now, but I'm going to go back through this. So wherever you're watching this training, I'm going to go back, I'm going to go answer those questions for you. So I want to bring this example of my morning routine, right? The frustration you might have, whatever it is you want to change in your life. I want to bring that into every corner of your law practice because whether you want to build a business or a family, right? I have lawyers that I work with who want to build a family, but they don't know how with all the work that they have. They're trying to figure out how could I possibly bring a child into this world without leaving the law or going part-time. Those are things I want you to be able to think about because the lawyers I work with who want to do those things, they can do those things. Right. So for me, it was building a business on top of my law practice. That's what I was making space for by living intentionally. That's what I was making space for by making decisions that weren't just focused on me working harder and trying harder and staying later at the office and bringing work home from the office. I had to make my decisions totally differently. Same thing if you want to bring a child into this world, grow your own business, whatever it is you want to do, create a workout routine. You've got to start thinking differently about where you're focusing your time and energy. So, the main lever, right? A lever is supposed to give you advantage in any area of your life, but the main lever lawyers have been taught is the work harder lever. And that work harder lever is only going to get you so far until you burn out. And it's only going to get you so far until you want something outside of your legal practice, like a child or another business or a life. So you've got to begin to break away these paradigms, these old school beliefs that the only way that you're going to make it as a lawyer is if you work harder. The only way you're not going to go get behind is if you work harder and stay later. The only way you can prove yourself and that you belong as an attorney is if you work later and you work harder. We've got to break these old paradigms if you want longevity in the law. And if you want a life that feels fulfilling, one that you enjoy, where you're pursuing the work you actually want to do, we've got to change all of that. And it starts with just one step. And that one step could be your morning routine. Like, it seriously starts with something simple. We think we have to flip everything around. I've got to get a new calendar and I got to start from scratch and I got to do, let me make sure I've got everything organized and then I'm going to get to work and then I'm going to do it. No. We're actually going to be talking about that in the next couple days. We're going to be talking about why that doesn't work. Why, if you are telling yourself the problem is you're not organized, that's actually not the problem. What actually needs to happen is you take one small step. You pick one area of your life and you focus your attention on that and you tweak it. Then, once that's tweaked, you take another area of your life and you tweak it. It's just one piece at a time. If I were to do that with my clients, if I were to say, okay, we're going to take all your work and we're going to flip it upside down and we're going to redo your calendar, they would freak out. Give me just a second. Excuse me. So I have had this dry throat for like a month now. I don't know what it is, but it is incredibly frustrating for somebody who talks for a living. It's not fun. Okay. So we don't flip everything in your life upside down. What we do is we take one piece at a time. And for you, I just want to offer to you that you pick a piece that feels the most frustrating to you right now. For me, it was a morning. My mornings I was not happy with. Maybe for you, it's something else. Let me know in the comments. And I might be able to help you with it too and kind of give you some direction if that's what you want. Just let me know if you'd like direction. Okay. So I think we dispelled the myth that working harder does not actually help you get ahead. If you believe that working harder is going to help you get ahead, I'm curious if that has worked for you so far. I used to believe that, so I'm not throwing shade here. Like, I used to believe if I just worked a little bit harder, if I, didn't waste so much time on email, if I didn't waste so much time scrolling social media, whatever it is, that then I would be further ahead, that I wouldn't feel so bad about myself that I was behind. But the truth is it wasn't that I needed to work harder. It's that I needed to think differently. I needed to think about where I was focusing my attention, what I was doing with my time, but not even just that, how I was talking to myself. This is a really big one. And we're going to talk more about it in the mind management training I have later this week. But when you are talking to yourself, things like, you're lazy, you should be working harder, you should have fill in the blank, you should have done that brief last week, you knew better, you should know better by now. When we talk to ourselves like that, we actually shut ourselves down from changing. We shut ourselves down from forming new habits. I want you to think about it like this. Imagine if you had a 5-year-old kid in front of you and they were talking to you like you talk to yourself. And I'm going to assume you talk to yourself this way because most lawyers that I talk to, they speak to themselves this way. But imagine you saw this 5-year-old girl in front of you talking to herself the way that you talk to yourself. What would you think? What would you do? Most of us would say, "Oh, honey, no, like, no, 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 no. It's okay. It's okay. You're going to be okay. There's nothing to worry about here. It's going to be fine. You're going to figure it out. It's going to be okay." But we don't do that with ourselves. Instead, we just berate ourselves. And this is why there's such a high instance of procrastination and unhappiness in the law, is because of how we talk to ourselves. Nobody even has this conversation in the legal profession because we're supposed to be hard as nails. We're supposed to have it all figured out. So why would we need to be kind to ourselves? But this is something I find time and time again with every single lawyer that I work with. I mean, there's been no exception. There's been no lawyer that I've worked with who said, "Oh yeah, I talk really great to myself." I had one gal who said that she did, and then as we worked together, it was very clear that she was not kind to herself, and she realized it, and it surprised her too. So, one of the things that you can do to help you accelerate change in your life, help you change the habits that you wanna make, like we were talking about with the morning routine, is to start being kind to yourself. One of the reasons I was so successful in changing my habits for my morning routine is that I didn't beat myself up when I didn't do what I needed to do or told myself I needed to do. I didn't tell myself that I couldn't do it. I didn't tell myself that I was lazy. I didn't tell myself that I wasn't working hard enough. I didn't tell myself that I wasn't disciplined enough. None of that. I didn't tell myself any of that because all it was an experiment. And if you're treating every area of your life is an experiment. You're in the present moment and you're being kind to yourself because it doesn't mean anything about you that you're not waking up at the time you want to wake up. It doesn't mean anything about you if you didn't finish that brief on time. It doesn't mean anything about you if you didn't start the brief earlier. It doesn't. But we tend to make it mean so many negative things about ourselves. And that prevents us from making change. And you'll know this is true if you've ever told yourself, oh, you know what? Next time I'm going to make sure that I start writing that brief sooner. Next time I'm going to start preparing for trial sooner. And then you don't because you haven't actually taken a step back and treated each area of your life as an experiment. And this is what I did with trials. This is what I did with hearings. This is what I did with my calendar. Everything, I began treating it like an experiment and I didn't judge myself. And when I stopped judging myself for failures or anything, right? When I stopped putting any labels on myself, I started to create the life that I wanted. And that's what you can do too to create your life intentionally and stop letting your law practice manage you. So when you stop doing those things, stop telling yourself you have to work harder because that's not the answer. The answer is actually beginning to look at individual pieces of your life where you're unhappy and tweaking them, looking at individual areas of your practice where you're frustrated and tweaking them. Right? I had a client where she would do trials and she was a civil attorney, so she didn't do trials as often as I did, but she happened to have these trials kind of in a back to back position, which was a really great thing because she could see and implement these tweaks that I'm talking to you about. So we took her first trial that she did, we deconstructed it using a three-step process I take my clients through, and I said, all right, we're going to deconstruct it and then we're going to bring it into your next trial. We're going to take all these learnings and we're going to bring it into your next trial. In the next trial, she got so much more sleep. She felt so much more energized. She was able to delegate so much more to her associates. It was just so much easier for her. And we created basically an SOP, a standard operating procedure for her to go into trial so she could just have a checklist and then she could pass that on to her associates so her associates knew what was going on too. And this is what you can do in any area of your life to make it more intentional and then make your life easier. So we covered a lot in this session. I'm trying to keep these short because I know you don't have a lot of time. But this is just one part of what you've got to understand to begin taking your life back and taking charge of your practice, which is the working hard mentality is not working. And instead, you've got to think differently. You've got to focus your attention differently. And I've given you a few examples of how to do that in this particular lesson. So there's two things I want you to know. One is we're going to have 4 more sessions the rest of this week. We're doing it at the same time, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern here on LinkedIn, or you might be watching it on YouTube or Facebook. That's great too. It'll be there. You can comment to your heart's intent. If you're watching the replay, make sure you're hitting like and commenting, and then I can respond to you with any questions that you have. And then the next thing I want you to know is if this is resonating for you, if you want help taking charge of your practice, Timepiece for Lawyers is open. We're actually going to be starting our first live session the first week of May, but all the trainings are available to you right now. All of the replays from past sessions of Timepiece are available to you right now. All the bonuses that I've got some really good ones, they're inside Timepiece right now. So if you want to join Timepiece now, you can go to dinacataldo.com/timepiece, PEACE, and you can join me now. And then we're going to have live coaching sessions for 16 weeks. And we're going to be talking about everything. We're going to deconstruct everything that's going on in your life. You're going to be able to put the pieces together to live intentionally, just like we started doing here in this session. We're going to start looking at those areas of your life where you're frustrated, those areas of your life where you're unhappy, and we're going to start making them an intentional vision for yourself, having you really think through what it is you want and what it is you don't want. And then we're going to create something new for you. And we're going to do it step by step. We're going to do it as an experiment, and we're going to make it work for you because we're not one size fits all humans. What works for me is not necessarily going to work for you. So we experiment. We work through all of the little things. If you've got kids, we want to make sure that we incorporate that. If you have pets, all of those things, they're going to make your life a little bit different. And so then you're going to be working with different sets of tools. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So I will see you tomorrow, same time, same channel. And then we're going to keep this conversation going. We're going to be talking about mindset. We're going to be talking about how to actually use a calendar this week. Most lawyers have no idea how to use a calendar. I definitely didn't. I just used it for appointments. I used it as a task list. That's not how you use a calendar, as it turns out, but I will show you how to use one so you know how to use it properly, help you get your time back. We're going to be talking about boundaries. We're going to be talking about all that good stuff. So be sure to stay tuned. And if you want to get email reminders of these sessions that we're having this week, message me on the platform where you are right now. Let me know that you're watching Timepiece for Lawyers and that you want to be on my email list, and give me your email address. And then that way I can send you email reminders when we're about to start. All right, my friend, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.